Hello everyone, this is Philosophy 72, Modern Philosophy. This is week 11, and we stay this week with Heidegger, an essay called The Origin of the Work of Art. We do that this week and next week, which is the last one, right, week 12. So for this week, I ask you to read from page 1 to page 23, and I will point out, as always, some important moments in the text, and I begin this time from page 23, right, where you have the expression. You see that, in the first paragraph, right, worlds, right, worlds, which is a strange expression, but I ask you to write about that, right, because this is actually, I believe that the discussion board and entry, and also the 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 journal entry, right, should be about this. It is about this essay, and one is about that expression in particular. I ask you to interpret the expression, which is strange, but you do so on the basis of reading this essay, the first part of the essay, certainly. Okay, so the discussion board entry is about the difference between working, mere working, just doing things, working, even for a wage and so on, or any activity, working activity whatsoever, and doing artwork. Right? Is the difference? What is the difference? In that sense, can all work, all activity basically be to a degree creative, artistic, certainly not in our society, right? But think about that. I want you to say, what to address this question and say what you think. And then in for the journal entry, for week 11, the idea is precisely to remark on, make some comments on Heidegger's expression that the world, worlds, which is using the word, right, the noun world as a verb, meaning that it, right, produces something. It produces itself, right? What does that mean? In any case, I leave that to you to think about. But so you find that on page 23, as I say, and this is the context. Okay, comes from the previous sentence on page 23 says world. What is the world, right? I mean, there is a difference that he makes between the earth and the world. Think about that. The earth is there to begin with. The world is something that it is right, human made, right? So in any case, not only that, but world is not a mere collection of things, countable and uncountable, unbreathing, known and unknown, that are present at hand, like this book is present at hand for me. Neither is a world a merely imaginary framework added by our representation to the sum of things that are present. Okay, that's what he says. This is very important. And then the next sentence begins with these words. I just gave you that expression to think about: world, worlds. Okay, so that's what the world really is, what the world does. And then he continues, world is never an object that stands before us and can be looked at, right? The idea in Heidegger, in general, other works by Heidegger also say that, is that the human being is in the world. We find ourselves in the world. Okay, I mean, if you think of that, this is also similar to what we saw already in Kierkegaard, and the existentialist philosophy of Kierkegaard, the standing out, and so on, and Sartre. There are relations between among the three philosophers. I can't go into that now, but right, again, think about this idea. But let me go back, okay, because then I will continue next time from page 23. Let me go back to the beginning of this essay, which is The Origin of the Work of Art. Right at the outset on page 1, he establishes this relationship between, think about that, the artist and the work of art. Okay, so first of all, he says, page 1, I read, origin means here that from where and through which a thing is what it is and how it is. And then I skip a few lines. He says the artist is the origin of the work is the origin of the artist. Okay, so there is this mutual, right, reciprocal, and he says that relation in the next I skip one sentence, and he says precisely artist and work are each in themselves and in their reciprocal relation on account of a third thing, right? I mean, they are each on account of a third thing, which is neither of them, which is prior to both. What is this third thing? On account, that is, of that from which both artist and artwork take their names on account of art. Okay, so you have art, and then at the beginning, let's say, right, that's the more fundamental level, and then you have from there, from art, you have the artwork, the work of art, and the artist, who that are both of them in a reciprocal relation, but they are what they are, and they are in that relation because of, in virtue of, on account of art. I hope that this is clear. This is not too difficult. If you think of it, again, you have art and then the artist and the artwork. Okay, so then in any case, read all this. There are some important, so he speaks about moving in a circle. You will see that at times Heidegger is difficult because of that, but then there are moments in which something becomes clear. And I can't go into, again, look especially at the highlighted passages, but there are a few concepts that I want to remark on, especially words that are given also in the original Greek language. Here, for example, if you go to page this is page 3, where the section called the thing and the work begins, right? Then he speaks about the question of truth, and then about the question of the thing. A thing, what is a thing, right? I mean, a thing, even the work of art is a thing. Then soon later he will use that wonderful illustration that you can Google. You can see the painting by Van Gogh of the peasant's shoes, right? Wonderful painting that he uses, and the difference between the shoes in the painting and the shoes that the peasant uses. I mean, when you read about that, and please Google the painting by Van Gogh and see the painting itself, and you can think back of and think about what we did at the outset, the beginning of this semester, with the painting by Magritte, the pipe. This is not a pipe. It's not the same, but it is certainly, there are some connections to be made there. Okay, so in any case, that's basically the question of the thing, the mere thing, what a thing is. Then at the end of page 5, the bottom of page 5, you see the question of the ground. You have the Greek word. I don't want to go into that now, but there are other things that I want to highlight. For example, when you go to the concept of the thing on page 7, that's certainly important. And then you have the matter form distinction on page 9, and the example of the shoes that's introduced on page 10. This is something that you can certainly write on, right? I mean, it's a wonderful illustration. Again, he says on page 10, a piece of equipment, for example, the shoe equipment and so on. The artwork, he says a few lines below, However, though its self-sufficient presence, through its self-sufficient presence, resembles rather the mere thing which has taken shape by itself and is never forced into being. Again, this is, I'm reading. Think about also the other painting that we saw by Magritte about the pipe, right? This is not a pipe. And in any case, the question of holding together on page 13, and I want to, highlight again on page 14, he then mentions precisely Van Gogh by name, right? From Van Gogh's painting, he says at the top of page, right, 14, I mean, a few lines below, we cannot even tell where these shoes are. Where are the shoes? Because if you look at the painting, you have just the shoes in the painting, right? There is nothing surrounding this pair of peasant shoes. Again, I can send you a link on Blackboard over but you can Google it very easily. There is nothing surrounding this pair of peasant shoes to which and within which they could belong. There is only an undefined space. You look at the painting, you have on the canvas this undefined space, and then the shoes, the peasant shoes, okay? A pair of peasant shoes and nothing more. That's what Heidegger says. And then you see that he says, and yet, period, right? And yet this and yet opens up a whole space of discussion. Yes, there is only on the painting only a pair of shoes or peasant shoes, and yet a whole world opens up, the world of work, of the peasant work, of also art, and so on and so forth. He says, for example, I read, from out of the dark opening of the well-worn insides of the shoes, the toil of the workers, the work, the toil of the workers, of the workers' trade stares forth. Okay, so there is that's a path into the effort, the work of the peasant. The shoes vibrate with the silent call of the earth. So there is also an opening to the earth through the shoes by looking at the peasant's shoes. Okay, so it is in this sense that he says on page 15 that the painting by Van Gogh spoke. Right? It speaks to us. The artwork let us know, that's at the bottom of page 15, the highlighted line. The artwork lets us know what the shoes in truth are. Not simply what they are in their usefulness. You will see that he speaks about the usefulness of the shoes that the peasant precisely uses, that the peasant wears, and so on. But then what they in truth are, and the question of truth, of course, is very important. Let me say that for Heidegger, truth is a matter of revealing. Right, the word, we will see that the word that he uses in right here, maybe I didn't highlight it, but you find it on page 16, the second paragraph, line 4, the unconcealment, okay, to reveal or to unconceal, that's what truth for Heidegger is. In the Greek tradition, he says that whatever we call truth is actually this coming out of hiding, coming out of concealment, right? It is the unconcealment, the revealing of something. That's what truth is. He says, precisely in relation to art, the work of art, what is happening here? What is at work? I'm reading. In the work, the disclosure, revealing, right? This unconcealment, coming out of a concealment, okay? So he says precisely then, this being steps forward into the unconcealment of its being. It's a little difficult, but I hope that you understand what I have said so far, the unconcealment. Okay, so think about something coming out of a hiding place and being revealed. Right, so the unconcealment of beings is what the Greeks call aletheia. That's the word that you find in Greek in your text. Aletheia, it would be in English, the transliteration would be Aletheia. Aletheia. Aletheia is coming out of a hidden place. Okay, so it is really the movement of revealing, and this is what Heidegger tells us the Greeks understood as truth, whatever we then call truth, but there is much more than in the word truth. Okay, there is this movement of revealing and so on. Okay, so I hope that this is clear. Ask questions again if you have any, but this is a very important moment. Okay, through the painting, right, of this again, I will put the link, so that you see the painting itself. You should, through the painting we see something that otherwise we wouldn't see, right? There is that's a path into a whole world of work, of life and work and so on and so forth. And it is the painting that precisely speaks to us and that operates this revealing, this right unconcealment of the truth of what is, the truth of being. Okay, art, he says, on page then 19, you have this section that begins the work, the work, the work of art, especially, and truth. Art is real in the artwork. We already saw what happens. There is this passageway, the path that I said, you find that in the middle of page 19. And it is this idea that, is really, among so many other things, it's a difficult text, but, I hope that this is clear, that we see, that we have this possibility of looking into the open and seeing something, and something there is also what grows, what arises by itself. You find on page 21, more or less in the middle of the page, another Greek word. You see, it's phusis. It would be Phusis. That's the English transliteration, but it's there in Greek characters. Okay, phusis, which is what we usually translate with nature, but right, Heidegger says no, that's not, nature is the Latin kind of natura, in Latin translation of phusis, but for the Greeks, again, just like aletheia is the revealing, the unconcealment and so on, phusis, that we translate with nature, is the self-arising, what arises by itself. When we did Spinoza, studied Spinoza, if you recall, we understood nature with Spinoza as natura naturans and natura naturata, right? Nature, nurturing nature in the act of producing itself, and nature, the nature that we see, the landscape and so on, after its production. That's basically the idea, that you can understand this. The earth, everything, that is, everything that grows and changes and comes into presence, right? What is the potency, the power, the energy, inside, whereby things happen, right? Not only, an earthquake comes, the rain, right? It's tsunami, but also flowers blossom in the spring, right? People and any other form of life, arises, grows, decays, and so on and so forth, right? That's phusis. And then he goes into the question of the earth as the protecting one, and then there is this relationship between earth and world, which is really interesting. And then you get to page 23 precisely. We stop there for today, where you have the idea that I want you to, in light of what I have said tonight, maybe you can think about this idea that the walls, right? This revealing, this coming into the open, this self-arising, this showing something, and how the work itself, the work of art, shows something in a very special particular way for Heidegger. Okay, so I see you next time. Again, ask questions, and then we'll finish next week with the last part of this essay. Thank you.